Are we live at this point?
Yes, sir. Live and being recorded.
Okay, I see the thing said leave meeting. I don't want to click on this and get knocked
Just
myself out.
click OK.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome again to our EMS meeting. For the last several months, I think, as you know, I'm being Hassan for those our guests in the house. I'm the chairman of the subcommittee that we're looking at the emergency. I call it emergency management service. I have that title for a reason. We're trying to figure out how to get a handle around managing this particular medical service that provided to the citizens of Augusta, Richmond County. I think we've had some very productive meetings previously, and today we have a few guests with us from the EMS Council from I think District 6 as well. I think we have a representative from the state as well. And so we look forward to a very robust conversation today. At any given time, any one of my colleagues, I think if you want to become where we can see everybody, raise your hand and we'll go to you and let you get involved in this conversation that we're having. We normally go about an hour, 15 minutes at best. Sometimes the day may get to an hour and a half, I don't know. But we're looking forward to this conversation. I think it's a very, very crucial point at this particular time. And I appreciate the information that was sent to us yesterday by way of, I think, Mr. Pinard, the chairman. So at this particular time, we're going to go ahead and get started with item number one. Ms. Bonner, what is item number one, please?
Item number one is a report from Director Daniel Dunlap of our 911 Center to provide information on the EMS software, middleware products offered in support of data and reporting.
Mr. Dunlap, go ahead, please.
Certainly, thank you. And just to kind of clarify from the last meeting, there was a request at the end of the meeting to reach out to the current EMS provider to gauge their level of interest to see if they're interested in a partnership with a middleware product. And it was requested that we did receive the correspondence in writing. So that was actually that was a deliverable that was requested. We did reach out to the representative from our EMS provider and pose that question and gauge their level of interest. And they did respond back that they are certainly willing to discuss the potential implementation of a middleware program. And that email should have been provided to the committee.
Okay, good, thank you. Are there any questions around that conversation from anybody on the committee? Anybody want to add anything to that? Mr. Administrator, you have any comments?
No, sir. I think that Mr. Dunlap, I think he provided all of the information requested, and think we're good to go on that item. Okay,
Mr. Dunlap, in having that conversation with them, potentially moving forward, what do you think a timeline would be for you can actually have that conversation, or you think for us to just get a little further on down the road for what we're doing here now and go back to engage our provider at a later time?
We can certainly begin the conversation. I know it would have involvement not only with our department and the EMS provider, but it would also involve the IT department, the vendor that works with our computer-aided dispatch system, the vendor who works with the computer-aided dispatch system for the EMS provider. So if that's something that we would want to begin, it could begin now, at least to have those conversations to start.
Do this committee suggest that they go ahead and start those conversations with IT and all other respectful parties so we can get further down the road in that conversation around the midware? Any suggestion, committee members?
Depends on what the goal is.
The goal is to try to see about the midware. That's going to be able to, for the city of Augusta to talk to.
Can you rephrase your question again?
It's about allowing them to go ahead and continue the dialogue around the midware, so we'll know that those systems can communicate.
No, I think it's something we should definitely require.
Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Sires. Go ahead again.
Well, I'm just saying, what is the goal? Is the goal to implement that, or just to keep seeing how they feel about it?
Well, they've already expressed how they feel about it, but it's probably a time-consuming process, as you heard Mr. Dunlap, that's mentioned all the principles that has to be involved. And so just want to make sure that that we can, pull this off in a reasonable amount of time. And the best way to know that is to try to see what that looks like. That was my thoughts on that.
That's fine. I would say go ahead, but it's just as
I
long as
agree.
we know where they're going ahead too. Okay.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. We'll go to the next item, Ms. Bonner.
Item 2 and 3 will be companion items from Administrator Donald regarding presentation from Mr. Gary Pinyard, Medical Director, and Mr. John Gresham, Chairman of the Region 6 Emergency Management Service Council, along with the State Director for EMS, Mr. David Newton. Administrator Donald.
Yes, Chairman and committee, I think our partners, Mr. Graham, Mr. Newton, and Mr. Pinyard have agreed to join today's call to kind of answer any questions that the committee might have. Definitely thankful for having them. We've took us a little while to get connected and then ensure that they were available today, but they're all here and on the call and ready to address any questions that the committee has.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. To our guests, we're very honored that you've accepted an invitation to be here with us today. And we're at a point that we're trying to find out, the council and the state levels involvement in this process as our current provider received the zone. And so this is the first time that we had an opportunity to talk to you as this subcommittee here. And some of the questions, either one of the three of you know the answer. Some that's going to be local, some that will be from the state. I'm going to start out some of those questions. And my very first question to any of you all is, who was here in 2013 when our provider was awarded the zone? Augusta-Richmond County zone was awarded to the current provider, who happens to be Gold Cross.
This is John Graham. I was on the council back in 2013.
Okay. I see it as Mr. Pinyard. Are you here?
He is. He was telling me that he was having audio problems. This is David Newton, the state EMS director. I know Gary was the chairman of the council. So even though he works for us now, he was actually the chairman of the council back at that time.
Okay. Is there any way that someone can help Mr. Pinyard?
Yes, sir. We'll get IT on that.
I believe y'all, I'm good now. It was a setting on my computer. I can join.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna start with Mr. Pinyard and Mr. Graham. I'm gonna keep it local starting out. And I think both of you all were there on the EMS Council. At the time in 2013, when our current provider submitted an application, I believe it's an application process, and please feel free to correct my verbiage around this conversation. At the time an application was submitted, do you know what the basis was that for you all to consider that, considering awarding the zone to the current provider? Do you remember that conversation?
This is Gary. I was the chairman at the time, and I deferred that to the zoning committee, and that would be Mr. Graham, who was the chair of that committee at that time.
Mr. Graham?
Yes, we put out information for request for proposal. We received the applications. We reviewed applications based on the merit of what they provided, making sure they could meet the requirements of the law for the zone. Recommendation was made to the full council. The full council voted for that recommendation and then sent it to the state. And then the state makes the final recommendation and approval. So it was a recommendation by council at that time on a vote. I don't remember the vote, how it turned out. Trying to go back and look at minutes, but it was a majority vote for the Gold Cross EMS service to be awarded the zone based on all the applications we received. If I remember right, I believe we received 3 applications back in that time frame, the best of my memory.
Okay. Thank you, sir. But let me ask you, from a county perspective, what did they have to be, what had to be their position? Were they giving up their zone? At that particular time, they were code zone providers in that incident. When the current provider started with us in 2005, Richmond County was the zone provider. At some point in time, they become code zone providers. So the question becomes, how did you view the local government status? Was it taken in consideration, or was there any position from the local government in pursuit of that?
Yes, of the three applications, Augusta Richmond County was one of the applications that was reviewed during that time frame. So that was their input was through their application that was provided.
So the application being so, if we had the zone already, we had to reapply for to maintain the zone. We were co-zone providers at a particular time. I apologize for that, Mr. Graham.
Correct. My understanding, yeah, the best I remember, it was a co-zone at that time, and the request was made to open up zoning back at that point, and I'd have to go back and look exactly the rules and regulate what the standards were then. They're different now. There's some new things in place that there's a way to open up zoning, and I'd have to go back to see. I can't remember back in that point how the request was made and why it was provided to open up the zone. I don't remember all those details.
Okay. Well, I have one more question, and I'm gonna try to see if my other colleagues have any questions, whether on the committee or not. I have an application that's before me, November 4th, 2013. It has Mr. Fernard as the chairman at a particular time on there. And it was an application that was I guess, submitted by a current provider. And it was talking about the different levels of response times that was being, most of them were, I'm just gonna read them just to kind of refresh your memory. And it was saying, and these are response time, 9:47. I guess these were ambulance was gonna be posted at. 9:47 Walker Street with an average response time of less than 10 minutes. 900 Baker Avenue with an average response time of less than 10 minutes. 1109 Medical Center Drive with an average response time of less than 10 minutes. So all of it is pretty standard in that regard. But one of the things that stood out to me, I think you all asked about the funding. And when I'm gonna read what it says here, it says, funding to Gold Cross EMS is currently under contract with City of Augusta to provide coverage for all of Richmond County. On our proposed contract term, that was A, here's B. On our proposed contract term with the City of Augusta, Gold Cross EMS receives $1,080,000 annually for ambulance services. What role, if any, did that play in you all recommending that? In other words, I'm gonna try to help you with that while I'm asking that question. Because as they become a zone provider, in my mind, it says that they're not necessarily obligated to any resources from Augusta Richmond County, but here they were under a contract, which was totally separate from being awarded the zone. So did that make that decision for you all, or just was other extenuating circumstances that may help you all make that decision?
So if I may, this is David Newton.
Recommendation.
Yeah, so this is David Newton. I guess I'm curious as to the zone's been awarded to Gold Cross, or since that's already done, is there something that we're looking to do going forward? Because I don't want us to try and question the decisions from 7 years ago.
Well, yeah, I have to, because, yeah, I understand that, Mr. Newman. Let me tell you what I'm getting at, because what I'm trying to discern is, do we as a county, do we automatically have to give them funds if you award them the zone? Is that based on, are we obligated to give them financial resources? That's where my question is coming from, and that's why I tied it to what you've done there. So let's talk about, if you want to do it that way, we can entertain it from another perspective. If you're looking at a zone today that you're going to award someone, and you look at the funding, and there is no funding from that local government, what impact did that have on your decision?
So it's one of those that it's a difficult answer to that question, because every zoning application is different and every zoning decision is different because it's based on the needs of the local community. So I'll give you an example. We just had a zoning issue in where the current provider was pulling out of Chattahoochee County, a very small county. And so that was part of it, is that, you know, some providers, when they were doing their application, would say, well, we need this, and others would say we need that. So it is part of the decision, but it's not the only decision, because the law requires us, or requires the council, to consider economy, efficiency, and benefit to the public welfare. So it's not just a dollars decision, and it's not just a response time decision. It's an all-encompassing decision about what provider and what application is going to best benefit the economy, efficiency, and benefit to the public welfare, as is called for in Georgia statutes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so let me actually do a follow-up with that, if you don't mind, sir. With that being said, and I did hear you say it's based on the statute, but from a local government perspective, there's no obligation that we have to give a subsidy. And at the same time, does the state set a criteria in terms of response time that at a minimum that an entity should provide to the citizens of that county?
So I'm going to answer the second question first. The state does not set minimum response times, because that would be impossible for us to set. Because if we said, oh, you have to be there in X number of minutes, well, that could be affected by weather. That could be affected by, traffic, and that could be affected by other things. But it's also affected by the local area, right? So just the local geography of that, the population density, stuff like that. So we don't set a response time. We have performance measures on other things that are more clinically based, whether it's for stroke or for cardiac and stuff like that. But we do not set a minimum response time or a maximum response time for any zone.
Okay, so in other words, from a national standards, you all don't adopt. Are there such things as the national standards when it comes to response times?
So if you're referring to the NFPA standards, that's for fire services.
Mm-hmm.
So that is not something that, again, that's not based on evidence. So we do not set that as a standard that says you must meet this.
Okay, all right. I'll go to some of my colleagues. Commissioner Garrett.
Thank you, Chairman. I guess in light of some of these questions that are being asked, I thought this entire EMS subcommittee was, basically set up to see what we wanted to see out of a provider. So what does zone ownership and, these questions about how Gold Cross ended up with the zone and the questions like that, what does that have to do with seeing what we're wanting out of our provider?
Well, is that question for me? Commissioner, is that for me?
I guess so, because you were the ones.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think these are the conversations we've never had. We've never had these conversations here, and then try to get to where we go. We got to look at the history of it. And the history for me, I think, is very important, because we are talking about, we've been giving out substantial subsidies, and I'm gonna give it for me. Let me say it for me, what it looks like for me. To make it very clear for me. When we're talking about, if our current provider had a contract in 2013 that, let's say, go all the way to 16, and if you was awarded the contract in 14, the zone as an absolute in 14, in many ways for me, that contract should have been null and void, because no longer are we obligated, or were we obligated, we had any obligation that we could no longer bid our contract out, so we lost our leverage. So at that particular time, some things should have changed. So I'm looking at, what are we obligated as a government moving forward? Are we obligated to give a subsidy? Is it something that we should consider? Does when the state awards them a zone, does the state take in consideration that indigent care, or that's something that works out between the vendor and the local government? So all those things are important to me to get to where we need to go.
I understand that, but I'm just trying to understand what that has to do around the zone conversation itself.
It is the zone.
As you know, Gold Cross held the zone for 2 years with no subsidy until we had the MOU in place that was put in place 2 years ago. So there's that answer too.
But they turned it down. They was offered it. They refused it. They was offered $380,000. They refused the money.
And they didn't get any at all.
For 2 years. And that's what I'm trying to find out now. Are we obligated to pay them? You don't know unless you have this conversation. We may not
Well,
be
I think
obligated to give them a dime.
Okay.
Ms. Clark,
Thank you. I don't think they had a subsidy from 217 to 219. Anyway, this is a question for the gentleman about the zone. Can an entity be awarded as zone provider when they do not have a fleet of ambulances to operate the zone?
So I guess I'm not understanding your question.
Okay, can a zone be awarded to a city, an individual, a company, an entity that does not have ambulances to operate the zone?
So a zone can only be awarded to a licensed ground ambulance service in the state. A current licensed ground ambulance service in the state, which would mean that they would absolutely have to have ambulances.
Thank you.
so let me ask that question, Mr. Newton, based on that, my colleague. If a county has the statute that you're talking about, don't have ambulances, what about giving them the ability to go out and to have a competitive bid on it? So why they can't have the ownership of their zone and to create a competitive environment?
Okay, I guess I missed part of the audio cut out for a second. I'm not understanding what the question is that you're asking.
Well, the thing is, Richmond County, I'm saying, when we had the zone, we were able to have a competitive process. So I'm saying, is that a twofold question? That you can have your zone, but then it gives you the ability. You obviously, if you don't have ambulance, you can't provide the service, but it does give you leverage that way you can create a competitive process and you can bid the services out.
So if the question is, can a licensed ground ambulance service in this state subcontract out some of its transports or all of its transports, then yes, that is a legal thing to do.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sires, you got any questions?
No, I was just listening at the moment. I have depends on where we go in this, whether I will ask the question or not. But I do have a note for the group today. Just want to remind you that Mr. John Graham is also the commission chair for Warrenton County. Jesse, one of our colleagues in the county administrating governing business. Thank you, Mr. Graham. Good to hear you.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just glad to be on today. And I'll continue to listen and let you know if I have anything else to say.
Chief Williams, you have anything you want to say or add to this conversation?
No, sir. Not at this time, Mr. Chairman. Okay,
all right. So my question really, and to my colleagues, I think they asked the right questions in terms of what does it have to do with it. And my real question here is indigent care, is subsidies, are those things automatic when you choose when someone have a zone? Does that local government, are they absolutely responsible? So subsidies, are they absolutely responsible for the considered indigent care? Or that all that falls on the provider?
Who you asking the question to, Commissioner?
Also Mr. Graham as well as Mr. Newton, because I think both of them look at it. One looks at it and then they forward it to the other, and the decision is made at the state level.
So this is David Newton. The Department of Public Health does not have the authority to mandate any government entity pay any fee, if that makes sense, unless they're paying a fee for an ambulance service.
Okay. Okay. What about that? Is it paying any fee? Okay, I'm clear on that. Do you take in consideration that every community has indigent a population, does that be taken into consideration when you're awarding that? And does that in your mind provide on the provider and the relationship with the local government? But when you're looking at that, does that take into consideration as well that there's always going to be indigent care going to be there online?
So I'm going to again refer back to Georgia statute OCGA 3111.3 and 3111.4, where it says that a zone is supposed to be determined based on economy, efficiency, and benefit to the public welfare.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the public in general.
Okay. And so how is that? So how is that determined?
So how is what determined?
How is it determined when you say efficiency, economy, efficiency, and the benefit of public welfare? Each local government is different. How is that determined from city to city, from county to county?
So it's not from city to city or county to county. It's from zone to zone.
From zone
right?
to zone. Who makes that decision?
So when a zone is opened, okay, so if a zone is open for bids, then the regional council, which the Department of Public Health has designated as what's called the local coordinating entity, which is specified in Georgia statute 3111.3 and 3111.4, the regional council takes into consideration all of the zoning proposals and decides based on what's in those zoning proposals, which one best meets economy, efficiency, and benefit to the public welfare. In more recent zoning issues or zoning openings, the department has provided a significant set of questions to ask to be used in determining that. I cannot speak to what was in place in 2013 or 2014 because I was not with the department at that time. But I can speak as to what is currently in place for the most recent zoning opening that we had, which we look at different things like performance measures on stroke and cardiac and trauma and pediatrics and maternal care and neonatal care, education, stuff like that. That is some of the guidance that we give to the regional council. The regional council still gets to make that determination based on their experience, their expertise, and the local zone and the needs of that zone.
Mr. Graham and Mr. Bernard, do you receive that information by way of our current provider to keep you abreast of heart attacks and strokes? Do you receive the information? If you do, how often do you receive that?
So are you asking if we still receive those performance measures?
No, sir. I was asking, if you didn't mind at this time, Mr. Newton, I was trying to ask the local EMS council. I think you're with the state, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
So I am, but if the question that I understand you asking is, do you still receive those performance measures? The department receives data from every licensed EMS agency in this state. The council does not receive that directly after a decision has been made based on a zone, for a zone.
How do you validate it, or do you?
How do we validate what, sir?
That the information is correct that you're receiving.
It is based on a national EMS data standard. We have validation rules in place for that.
Do you have any other questions from anyone? Mr. Brown, you got any questions that you're going to be asked why we having here these distinguished gentlemen here this morning?
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
No, I don't have any question at this moment.
Mr. Administrator?
No, I don't think I have any questions right now either. I think I understand the process.
Attorney McLean?
No, sir. He's pretty much sticking to the statute. It's all in the statute, what he said.
Okay. Well, let me give my takeaway from this. Then, while the person's here, if I can be corrected, I stand corrected while they're here. My takeaway.
Commissioner Son.
Yes, sir.
If I may interrupt, if you allow me to speak.
Yes, sir. I
did have one question. I think I heard the gentleman's answer, but if I would like to try to ask a question more briefly. Is there a requirement that a government subsidize the zone provider for EMS services?
Is that question for me?
Yes, sir, I guess.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, the Department of Public Health does not have statutory authority to require any contract or anything. That's not our purview. That's up to the local area.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir, very much.
All right, I'm gonna allow these gentlemen to excuse themselves, if you don't mind. We appreciate them very much. Anybody sure about that before they excuse? But we definitely appreciate them taking time out of their busy schedule. Definitely appreciate the contract that was sent from 2013 to give us an idea of what we could have expected in response times and things of that nature. I definitely appreciate the conversation around the issue of what Attorney Brown just, I think was already clear to me, but it's best to get it clear, point blank, and not confused with a lot of other different questions around that issue. And I think we're in a good place in terms of as we move forward. Thank you, Mr. Newton. Thank you, Mr. Graham. And thank you, Mr. Bernard, for taking time out of your busy schedules this morning.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Catherine, I'm sorry, did you have a question? Ma'am?
I'm getting ready to go off. I didn't mean to put my hand up. My apologies.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. My takeaway to everybody is you don't have to give them a subsidy. They have an obligation for what is economy, efficiency, and the benefit of the public health and welfare. And I just wanted to hear that. I do realize some of it was evasive. There's some statutes there, but I'm satisfied with what I heard about around those things. So, Mr. Sy, you're mighty quiet.
I'm just listening.
Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna go down the list and we try to get ready for our next meeting and look at the information that my colleagues asked for the last time, which was around finances. I think we've gotten some of that information already from that was sent out, but we weren't gonna discuss it at this meeting. And so we'll push it on to the next meeting to do that. And I think that was Commissioner, I don't understand Commissioner Bobby Williams, he's not here. If somebody give us some clarity on his, I knew what Commissioner Clark's answer was really to try to get something about what we made in-house. And I think Commissioner Bobby Williams asked for billing. And I'm trying to see exactly what did that mean. If somebody can understand what that question was, I'd appreciate it. Who was here last time? But Mr. Sides, you had asked about that as well, so it may be the very same question. And that is, what were you asking for?
Repeat that again.
I think at some point in time in the past, you asked about billing. Yeah, you might have used the same term, but you wanted to see about something that was from the provider. I think you was asking for, and I think that was Commissioner Williams was asking for. Commissioner Clark, I know he asked more in-house. Where did our ambulances generated? And I said last week that we was going to do that. We're going to do that at today's meeting.
Oh, you're talking about what funds that were generated by the Augusta ambulances, or you're just talking about a billing process that goes to the individuals who use EMS service?
No, so Commissioner Clark questioned, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's left as well. When you're not having fun, you take off and leave. He asked about our ambulances. I think you had a broader question early on, probably the first or second meeting. I said we'll get to that in the future, and it was around or bills or finances or something of that nature. Now, if you don't remember, I won't make you try to address something you don't remember.
You're not gonna make me anything, Commissioner. Well, the question I had referred to, the first one was the number 911 call. That was the first inquiry that I had about the number of 911 calls. Now,
what period of time?
Huh? And that was a 3-year time frame.
Okay.
And
go ahead.
And I think Mr. Dunlap has already had that information. I know Chief Williams, he produced that information about the number of calls and things that the fire department had answered. So, but the total number of calls, 911 calls, that was some information that I had requested. And but we said, as the chairman, you said we'll get to it later. Mr. Dunlap probably has that information now. And the reason why I asked that question was to see about how much approximate money was being generated through these 911 calls. And that was the genesis of my question there, and the number of calls that we have, which is dependent on the population and the business. Mr. Dunlap, did you ever get that information?
I do have that information. I don't have it right in front of me at this moment.
But
We can have it for the next agenda.
Certainly.
And have it ready to present. And also, here's a question I had about to Chief Williams.
Is Chief Williams still here?
Yeah, he's here. The
wrong place.
The question, when I looked at the data that Chief Williams then presented the last time, if I remember my question I had in my head was, Mr. Chief, y'all presented that kind of in a raw form, if almost like off the truck sort of kind of. And what I mean by that is the format that y'all had, is that the only format that y'all compile that information in?
Well, excuse me, Commissioner, what data are you talking about? Then I can give you a more detailed reply.
The number of calls that you all responded to.
Okay, what I'm looking at is email that Captain Perkins sent to me. And what he sent me was 2019 and 2020.
Right.
Now, that is specifically the ambulance, the ambulance themselves responded to, and that was 6,447 in 2019 and 7,292 in 2020 is what
and
I
that was just
you.
That was just the ambulances that at the time y'all had responding, correct?
Right. Yes, sir.
So
that was three ambulances.
Okay. And so in the case, but that's not all the 911 calls y'all responded to, because y'all responded to with other apparatuses as well, correct?
Yes, sir. That's just the three ambulances.
Okay. Now, Mr. Dunlap would have the information that would include everybody and everything that 911 calls that come in. And we know we responded through our fire service, but we don't does Gold Coast respond to every ambulance service for a request for ambulance service, Mr. Dunlap, or can they pick and choose whether to go or not?
So I'll give you, let's take an example of 10 911 calls that are transferred to the EMS provider in this hour-long period that we're on this meeting.
Okay.
The first call could be for a vehicle accident. That call is transferred over. The second call could be a second emergency call reporting the same vehicle accident. So now you have 2 911 calls that were transferred in relation to the first incident. There could be a 911 call from a hospital that's received, that's transferred over. The fourth call could be someone calling back about the first accident. So now you have 4 911 calls and really only 2 emergencies. There could be situations where they are working with another EMS provider where they have a mutual aid agreement to where they will receive that 911 call. However, they will not dispatch one of their ambulances. They'll request mutual aid from that other service to respond to that call. If that.
And last question, Mr. Dunlap here. Right. So if in my request for the number 911 calls, is there a filter, or would I just have to get that inflated number?
You would get that inflated number.
Okay.
So
and would just guessing, could that be about 5% that will be inflated because of that process?
Potentially.
Okay. Good answer.
Yes, sir.
And that's on the minimum side, right? That's the minimum, right?
Potentially.
All right, Chairman, I'm finished.
Okay, okay.
He sounds like a lawyer.
Thank you.
Mr. Dunlap.
Listen, but now you know you can get your next one in-house. When you need another, you keep it in-house.
And Mr. Chairman, just for the group now, when we talk about billing, what is charged for transports, I won't have Gold Crossing. I'll
Yes.
just have what the Augusta Fire Department, what we bill.
Yeah, we clearly understand that.
Okay, all right, okay.
We clearly understand that.
Well, Chairman, I got something else since you wanted me to ask questions. I'm going to Chief Shaw one more time, and then I'm gonna let this alone. Chief Shaw, when you look back at the resources we needed to put our ambulances on the street, we had 3 ambulances. At least 1 or 2 of them were brand new, and you also had a revenue amount that we had generated. So when you look at the revenue that was generated, the service that was provided, and the resources it took to provide that service to the public, do you think it was worth it, in your opinion, for us to provide?
Mr. Syed, we're gonna put that on the next agenda. You getting ahead of us? You getting ahead of us with that question?
See, now you want me to ask questions, and then you want to interrupt when I ask one.
Yeah, because that's gonna be our next agenda. They give him a chance to think, but he do know where you're going now. So
He
now
already
he got
got
to
that
think
answer.
about it. He got 2 weeks. I know he got the answer, but he got 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks to marinate on it, to perfect it, to say it with excellency.
You gonna be like, you gonna be in a position of, oh, anyway, we are live, so let me leave that alone. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Ms. Bonner, our next agenda into the committee. Are you there, Ms. Bonner?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Yes, ma'am. The next agenda is going to be, I think Chief Williams answering the question. No, I think, Chief Williams asked the question from Commissioner Clark around what internally, what do those resources look like?
Internal resources from?
Yes, ma'am. From the 3 ambulances that we have.
3?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
Also, Mr. Administrator, also, is the Administrator there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
He is.
Mr. Administrator, also, I'd like you to, we're going to have a meeting in 2 weeks. If our agenda is not full, I don't want to put us data back to back to back, but in 2 weeks. Also, try to see a system based on the current contract we have with the provider, based on where ambulances are supposed to be established, because I think it is spelled out, to try to see, can we find a way to gauge that 2 and 3 times a day to make sure, and I don't know how we're going to do that. And between yourself and Director Dunlap can help you and show you, I'm going to put your heads together on that one, because you got calls constantly coming in, to try to see these ambulances in these locations, these 8 ambulances in particular, how often are they there? Because I think in the Curtis contract, they're supposed to be stationed there, but I do know they have to get out and transport and things of that nature. So give us a way to begin to monitor that, to see how that's going, to see from that point on. So we have to talk about that at the next meeting. And then you may have to get you some manpower to do that. I don't know how that's going to happen, but I think that's going to be important, us making a decision, because there's a lot of concerns about whether we have sufficient ambulances in Augusta Richland County. And so we can't tell they're moving about, but there are potential locations they should be at any given time, so just see what that looks like. Yes, sir, Mr. Brown, Attorney Brown.
I don't think our contract with them provides that they have to have an ambulance at a given location.
You look at the one in 2019, that ambulance didn't have location, didn't have the amount of ambulances.
I think it was the amount of ambulances, but I believe we had locations for our 3. But I have to check back with that. I'm not 100% sure, but I just wanted to let you know that's an issue that we need to look at.
Well,
okay.
I have Chairman, I have it in front of me, and actually, the 2019, the 2020, does have, we have a number and we have a, we do have actual locations.
Can you read the locations out, please?
All right. Well, let me read, let me do the combination of, provide 8 ambulances dedicated to emergency medical calls in Richmond County, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And down on D, it says stays the required ambulances at the following locations: 2512 Riceboro Road, 2323 Washington Road, 900 Baker Avenue, 10th and Walker, 2802 Regency Boulevard, Hempstead Fire Station, and 3713 Old Waynesboro Road. So it do have specific locations, but let me say that without the hardware that was discussed earlier, just by hoping they'll be honest, it's very hard to say where they are. And also let me be fair and say, with the volume of calls that's going on during the day, I doubt very seriously are they sitting anywhere. Mm-hmm. It's just so much call volume these days. They're not really sitting anywhere at any particular time.
Okay.
They're responding, or they're at the hospital, or they're clearing up. So even though we have the locations, unless it's a shift change, it's very rare that you're going to see a unit actually stationed anywhere.
Okay. 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 Well, still, we can just try to see some kind of way how we can get some sense of monitoring exactly what we have, because the current contract we have is to the end of 22. And I think at some point in time, I think since we're having this conversation, we need to be trying to look at and see what we're going to do moving forward beyond that. And so we got to find some kind of way. If you got any type of suggestion, not the sprouts them now, but that needs to be our next discussion to begin to evaluate the current contract that we have in hand, so we know where we go next. So y'all can put your heads together, the experts around this, the in-house experts, because that's going to be important to what we do beyond this. Mm-hmm. So those are a couple of items that Ms. Bonner. I think it's just 2 items that Ms. Bonner.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any closing comments from anybody? Yes, sir, Mr. Brown.
Yes, we are aware, correct, that this contract can be ended in short order. You're not bound to 2022. Either side can end this contract.
Yes, sir. I'm totally aware of that. But I was just speaking to the ending date is on it. But at the same time, I just wanted to, have something that we can do to come to some sense of responsibility. But I'm aware of that, and I appreciate your reminding us of that.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you all for your time. Believe it or not, I think a lot was accomplished. It was short. I know the only one would talk is the state guy, so I understand that too. But I like the fact that we have rights as well, and I think that's what's important. We have rights. This is our county, and I think it's time that we fight for what we think is right for Augusta Richmond County citizens. When we talk about economy, efficiency, and quality of service, or the benefit of public health and well-being, I think that's our first priority, and what we're obligated to support and respect at the end of the day. So I look forward to having this conversation around these issues. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, you'll set a date and let me know. I know you said in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Let me see what you got going on in 2 weeks, Ms. Brown. In terms of a Thursday.
A Thursday, that would be July 1st. It's open. I don't know if there's those that may have
a lot of vacation time that time.
Yeah,
right?
But July 1st is 2 weeks on a Thursday from today.
Commission meeting.
No, yes.
Let's go to the third week, Ms. Bonner. What's the third Wednesday or Thursday? The third week, yes. Not the third week of July, 3 weeks out.
Well, you in July?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we're good on the 8th of July.
Is July the 8th fine for the committee? July the 8th to do, Ms. Bonner, 11 o'clock.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.